to our rules, joint meeting for Rules and Open Government Committee of the Whole for Wednesday, June 3rd. We have a quorum. I see Councilmember Arenas, Councilmember Dieppe, Councilmember Davis, Councilor Camus, and Vice Mayor Jones. So everybody is here. We'll start with a review of the final agenda for June 9th. And it appears that there are several ads. The ads include a couple consent items regarding city-sponsored events, as well as a consent item relating to a land vacation, and then COVID-related items, one on the declaration of emergency, one on the update on the cost of distribution of food from last night, and then a public appointment to the retirement board. So I ask the maker of the motion to consider that. And on our motion, pages 5 and 6, are there any changes? Pages 7 and 8. Pages 9 and 10. Pages 11.
I have a question about item 5.1. It says to be heard at 5 p.m.
Not before 5, yeah.
Why is that? And
yeah, there's a lot of community interest, I believe, in North San Jose around the question of how this construction project goes very close to a school. There's a lot of issues around safety and concerns. So we suspect that there will be a few people from the community that will want to participate.
Okay, what if the meeting uncharacteristically goes faster than we expected? Would we have to stop the meeting and then continue on?
No, we'd move on. And of course, that is never a risk with us, but yes, no, we would just move on and come back. Okay, pages 11 and 12. Any changes? Pages, 13 and 14. And page 15.
Mayor, for 6.2, the Recycle Plus rates.
Yeah.
Do we want to put a time certain on that one as well? I think there's, well, at least I've heard a lot of interest. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of public comment about it or not.
6.
Not before 6.
Yeah, would that be all right?
Yeah. That's
just one thing to note. So we will be putting out a supplemental memo on this item that gives a little more clarity of what we were able to achieve with the haulers, which is slightly lower rates than what the maximum are. I think we got it down to 10% for A, and I think it was 5% for B. But that's coming out in a memo. I haven't seen a memo yet, but I just wanted to have that context for you all.
Okay, thanks, Dave. It'd be helpful also to understand in that memo whether there are any additional trade-offs that would be available for the council to consider to reduce those rates in this current year.
Very good. I'll ask just multitask here. Ask Gloria if she can follow up with the ESD team on that.
Okay, I
Thanks,
appreciate
Gloria.
it. Guys, I know that there are obviously multi-year impacts, and this year being a really tough one for a lot of folks. Might be helpful for us at least to have transparency for that question. And then, Dave, I understand there was a rumor that 10.3 might get kicked off a week, but I don't know if that's, and I think that's related also to 8.1.
Yes, there. I think it's a pretty strong rumor. The following week, I think we're considering the historics of the bank on the corner, and I think there's interest in trying to bring these together. So yes. Gloria, do you know if that was were we gonna propose deferral of this?
I didn't receive any other word other than what we talked about this morning about that deferral.
And so, yeah, I think so, Mayor. I think we want to defer this. I just don't have complete certainty over it.
Okay. Then I guess you can take that up with a recommendation when it comes back to us on Tuesday, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I'll go to the public. There appears to be Mr. Beekman.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. You had two items I was interested in for this first council agenda. One was
Mr. Beekman, I think you muted yourself.
hello, am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
Great, great. Yeah, I had two items that I wanted to talk about. One was 2.1, the consent section about environmental study for the airport. I know you're going through an environmental process with the airport and dealing with city of Santa Clara right now. You know, I'm still interested, you know, those ideas of years past about, you know, high-rise heights and stuff like that. Is there a way you can learn to incorporate the language of that of a few years ago into what we're all going through now? I would be very interested to hear what that language would be like. And so thank you for that. I hope you can do that. With the other item about the environmental impact report for the Charco area for the on-ramp stuff, I hope this is just a information item, in an information meeting. I don't know exactly the extent of it, but it was my understanding and my hope that this is only an information process where, you know, the different parts of the community can get together to review this situation and where everybody is at this time. There's no final decisions at this time, and not for quite a while still. I mean, I think we're in a state of shock with the COVID, and I think we need to go slow with a lot of issues. So I hope this is just simply just to kind of introduce ourselves to each other and the situation, and take a few, you know, years more to continue with this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then back to the committee.
I'll
Oh, go ahead, Deb.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda for June 9th with item 6.2 not to be heard before 6 p.m. and including all of the ad sheets.
Do we want to consider an 11 o'clock start?
I was going to ask that question.
And so was I.
A great question. We should just include the 11 o'clock start. Yeah, I'll add that to my motion.
Let's just do it. Even though
Unless, Rick, unless we have a long closed session.
no, right now we have about 4 items. 2 of them are real brief, and we'll be done, I think, in advance of 11 o'clock.
There we go. 11 o'clock start time.
So moved. Was there a second from Vice Mayor? Is that what the
Yes, yes.
Shall interpret that as a second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to that motion? All right, that is unanimous. Thank you. We're on to the June 16th agenda, starting on pages 5 and 6. Pages 7 and 8.
You got to stop that, Mayor.
Sorry, I know, contagious. Sorry.
It's contagious. It's good.
Pages 9 and 10. And 11 and 12. Oh, I see there's also, see a tougher hearing, pages 14 and 15. page 16. Okay, another full agenda. Rick, how long are we going to keep considering ROPS schedules? Is that just going to continue until all these?
Yeah,
redevelopment-
you're still the successor agency, even though the oversight board is a countywide board, and really we have little to do with it. Dave is on the board. I shouldn't say we have no little to do with it, but maybe you have more insight.
No, but Rick's right. I think we're up. Well, it does provide us for a minuscule amount of funding for some staff work in the city attorney's office and in finance. But I think we'll be in this game for quite a while till we've gotten through the duration of the bonds and everything.
Yeah. Mr. Beekman? Mr. Beekman? Oh, Mr. Beekman?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's been a little hard. The unmute has been a little slow sometimes lately. Sorry about that. Okay, so with this issue, there's a consent calendar item about natural gas. You're working on the issue of more prohibition, as you call it, of natural gas. This is an issue you guys have been working on for like a few years now, and I was so happy to learn how you were doing this, and I'm really saddened that we're at this point now of how to talk about our non-fossil fuel future. I was you could, if you could remember, I was really adamant in trying to learn how to practice how we can have good practices, and I didn't expect this COVID-19 to be a factor in how we're going to be considering these things now, and it hurts. And but yet, I'm trying. I'm still hoping, and we still have our good ideals. I've told you, I mentioned a few times now that East Bay Community Energy, they have a really good detailed community meeting process, and they really go through what their community energy is doing at each step. They're starting to develop, their next few years of what, natural. They're not using natural gas either, and they're phasing it out of their plans. I think it's something that protesters, just everybody, can really get involved in at this time. If you're feeling down, is how to rebuild our future at this time. Really look into what community energy is about, and if we invest our own good energy, we can really work towards positive, sustainable ideas at this time, and not just be stuck with this, master plan stuff. And so good luck on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Right.
Motion-
Back to the committee.
Motion to approve the agenda for June 16th with a start time of 11 a.m.
Second. We're just gonna do them all at 11 a.m., aren't we?
That's,
It makes sense.
yeah.
It gets us out by midnight. All right.
I've already accepted the fact that that's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm hearing none opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you. We're on to the public record, item E.
Motion to note and file.
Second.
Mr. Beekman?
Hello, thank you. I'm going to get to my speech here. Okay, here we go. I think the HEROES Act and the CARES Act from the federal level and the 2 letters to public record this week, including my own, can show it's becoming easier for everyone to talk about full rental forgiveness ideas. The HEROES Act and CARES Act are only important first steps in the financial help of rental forgiveness ideas that need all of us together to work on at the state and local level at this time. As recent protests are hopefully coming around to our long-term collective questions and goals, I think we have to address that the planning of this pandemic was not of any everyday owners and tenants. We need to develop a safe space to consider plans and ideas of full rent forgiveness for both owners and tenants for the next couple of years. These efforts have a simple, good logic that I think can help develop a community as a whole. And in being open and clear with each other and our better ideas and ideals, this can actually help keep away whatever fears there may be of tenants taking advantage of the system at this time. To speak up to my other two letters in this week's public record, a friendly reminder that in the early stages of COVID-19 in mid-March 2020, the city government of San Jose seemed to have a beginning good focus that the ideas of equity and good deficit reduction practices could help better navigate a tiered city budget system for the next few years. And there is still time to contribute your ideas in a more phased-in approach that can be used in the safety measures of the complete removal of Bradford Asian pear trees in the Post Street alleyway in downtown San Jose, and if Armstrong maple trees and forest pansy redbud trees are a good replacement. Write to city.arborist@sanjoseca.gov to add your thoughts to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, returning to the committee on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to that motion? Me. All right, hearing no opposition, that passes unanimously. We're on to consent calendar, G1.
Motion
Move
to
approval.
approve consent.
Oh, second.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to that consent motion? I'm hearing no opposition, so the consent item passes. We're on to 2, which is the fee cap on food delivery services. Councilor Diep, did you want to speak?
Yes, please. So thank you. I want to use this time to thank the committee for entertaining this notion. I want to thank Eddie of the SEO, Eddie Chung of the SEO for convening the meeting as requested by the Rules Committee. I know he took a lot of time and effort into convening the various stakeholders, and also want to acknowledge the willingness of the representatives from DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, and Grubhub for making the time to join in that convening as well with the various restaurants and other stakeholders that we had. That convening that the Rules Committee requested was a very interesting discussion, and it unearthed a number of items worth exploring. But as you might imagine, it was inconclusive as to a result that the Rules Committee wanted, because for my part, I don't feel that the Rules Committee identified, these are the 3 things we want to know from this. You sent us to work it out amongst ourselves. And as you might imagine, when there's one side that is proposing a regulation and one side that does not want to be regulated, the outcome will not be how about you regulate us this way? So given that, and given the various iterations of this conversation we've had through the last month or so, I feel it's time to withdraw my proposal. I'm doing that not because I feel that it's not a worthwhile effort, but I recognize in this time that we're all struggling with the COVID-19 response, city staff time, and the difficulty in getting restaurants to take the time to come before Rules Committee or a council meeting or to write letters. I acknowledge that this might not work for San Jose, although it's still a problem. I want to acknowledge that there's a real synergy that can happen between apps and restaurants. They can supplement each other in an ideal situation. You have restaurants who sell, let's say, 100 meals a day, and they make $1 profit each. And then because of these apps, they're introduced to 25 new customers that would not know them otherwise. And for those 25 sales made through the apps, they're making maybe 70 cents per meal instead of the full $1. But it's a win-win for all. Because of COVID, however, because of the pandemic and because of sheltering in place, that ideal is kind of turned upside down. What I see for our restaurant community now is that they're making less sales and they're increasingly dependent on these apps. And so whereas before you would be making 100 sales a day and plus some 25 year of the apps, now you're making maybe 60 sales a day. And the majority of those, let's say 40 of them, and I'm just guessing here, but let's say 40 of them are through the apps. And so you're making less on volume, but you're also making less of a profit for yourself by selling through the apps. And so whenever we come out of this, however long we're still doing this, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, I feel that restaurants will be having to pay for overhead, will have to pay for their staff, and they'll have to pay on back rent because they're protected by a moratorium. But in order to pay off those debts, they're going to be making fewer sales and keeping fewer of their profits because increasingly the number of sales will be made through the apps. And some may say that I'm painting a worst case scenario, but I think my concerns are substantiated by the fact that some of these apps have unilaterally, voluntarily lowered their fees in the past few months. I understand in June, they're no longer lowering their fees. And the fact that members of this council have demonstrated a concern that what if these app companies stop servicing parts of our city? The status quo has changed, and we have become accustomed to these apps, and the consumers will not stop using them. I don't see a day after this where restaurants can go back to a time where they're making fully the profit out of their effort. So before I end, I just want to kind of address two concerns that I heard out of this rules committee regarding the potential downside of regulating. The proposal here was to simply regulate during this pandemic time. It was not to set out a permanent regulation. I felt there was a need to help restaurants during this time, and that could be lifted once the economy opened up again. The two kind of concerns I heard was one in regards to the working conditions or the pay of gig workers. And I think gig workers will find more and more jobs in the future through these apps because my fear is that as our restaurants continue to struggle, they will downsize their staff, and W-2 jobs with set schedules and benefits and set pay will give way to more delivery jobs through independent contract type work where the person sets their own hours but uses their own car and may not have the same benefits as a W-2 worker. The other concern I heard was we don't want to pit business against business, and I understand that. But I think all of us have been guilty of that in one way or another. Anytime that we've encouraged a constituent to buy local, we're pitting a restaurant outside of San Jose against a restaurant in San Jose or business in San Jose. Anytime we say, support Small Business Saturday, we're pitting local small businesses against the big corporate department stores and whatnot. Anytime someone says buy USA, we're asking them to pay a bit more to protect American industry when we can get these same things much cheaper from abroad. So there are times when it's important to protect certain industries, and I certainly feel that if given the choice between brick and mortar restaurants, mom and pop type shops, people who've invested their savings in trying to get their slice of the American dream versus apps that are businesses that are disrupting, that are funded by venture capital, I will always pick the brick and mortar mom and pop entrepreneur. But with that, I recognize the difficult circumstances moving forward with this politically, and I respectfully withdraw my proposal.
Thank you, Councilmember. There are several members of the committee who'd like to speak, and then we'll come back to the committee. Mr. Beekman?
Hi, I'll go first, and then you can talk to the more serious people on this issue. But of course, I'm trying to be serious too. But thank you for allowing me to speak at this time. I said a few words about master plans and what we're all having to go through with issues at this time, and I don't mean those words to be so much as inflammatory. If those words are said, I guess the idea is how to bring them back into the conversation then. And we're all dealing with issues in our life at this time, and how to deal with COVID-19, and this is an example of that. I think city government can provide some really good structure and guidelines to what the situation needs, and that was, I think, what was talked about before. Beyond that, I don't know much else I can add, but just a good luck to yourselves and how you can work on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chong?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Lundiet for his leadership in really pointing to attention that restaurants are quite frankly suffering during this time, during this pandemic, and quite frankly, during a time of civil unrest. I also want to thank the Rules Committee for asking SVO to convene a neutral convening of the two industries to find mutual solutions. I want to put out a little bit of our methodology prior to our Monday meeting. I knew that just by putting two groups together on the Monday meeting and not having consensus beforehand would be a difficult meeting to have. And so I personally went on about a dozen different qualitative interviews with both app companies and restaurants prior to our Monday meeting that lasted anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour to build consensus around the issues. And I realized I only have 2 minutes. So if the council members wanted any deep qualitative feedback from what I heard personally from the restaurants or from the app companies, I'm more than happy to say so. In closing, I also want to make that point that while Councilmember Deep is withdrawing his proposal, the app companies really heard loud and clear from the restaurants about what are ways that we can enhance private sector partnerships to support our restaurants. And some of those ideas were to work together on providing resources in technology and marketing resources to our immigrant-owned businesses who really need to expand and grow their market and their customer base during this time of need. Restaurants also talked about numerous issues like high fixed costs, commercial rents, and they were very concerned about quickly reopening the economy and to champion programs like San Jose Al Fresco to allow outdoors dining to happen. And so I don't have that much time left, but if you would like to hear more qualitative feedback on what was heard from these two groups, I'd be more than happy to offer myself as a resource. Thank you again.
Thank you, Eddie. Thanks for your work. Jeffrey Buchanan?
Mayor and Council, good afternoon. Setting aside the issue of rent caps, would like to address the comments from Councilmember Diep. In fact, yes, these app-based delivery companies do present a threat to job quality of workers, not only in the restaurant industry, but certainly in transportation as well. And though the council may not be pursuing regulations around fee caps, there's still an opportunity for the city of San Jose to address the injustices of these companies around misclassification. On May 5th, Attorney General Xavier Becerra, city attorneys in Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco presented a lawsuit against Uber, which operates Uber Eats, is in talks to acquire Grubhub, very much involved in the app-based delivery work that the Rules Committee has been discussing in recent weeks around misclassifying their workers as independent contractors in violation of California law. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 5 and the California's unfair competition law, the AG and city attorneys allege that Uber and Lyft's misclassification of workers deprives workers of critical workplace protections, such as a right to a minimum wage and overtime, access to paid sick leave, disability insurance, and unemployment insurance. Californians, and certainly folks here in San Jose who drive for Uber and Lyft, lack basic protections, from paid sick leave to the right to paid overtime. Uber and Lyft claim that their drivers aren't engaged in the company's core missions and aren't allowed to qualify for benefits like unemployment insurance. Again, San Jose and our city attorney have the ability to join this lawsuit. In fact, we're the only of California's largest cities that has chosen not to join with the Attorney General on this issue. Would encourage the City Council, if you're interested in looking at what to do about gig companies, to consider what to do about these misclassified workers. Thank you so much.
All right, returning then to the committee. Councilor Camus.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Diep, and thank you, Eddie Trong. Since I'm the one who asked for the deliberation to be had on and include the restaurants, I really wanted to hear a little bit more about what the restaurants had to say. I'm not, I kind of know that the companies don't want to be regulated, but I want to hear what Eddie, are you still there? I'm not sure if you are. If you can answer, what did you hear from the restaurants?
Eddie,
yeah.
Thank
you, Mayor. Before I go into that, is it okay if I talk a little bit about our outreach process, given the short time frame, and then I can talk about the quality of feedback we heard? And so just a reminder, the Rules Committee made a motion by the Vice Mayor to ask the SVO to mediate a discussion between the two industries. And we only really had about 5 working days business days to make that happen. And so considering the considerable challenges of a sufficient outreach process, I knew early on that we were not going to have a representative sample of every restaurant in San Jose. That just wasn't going to be possible. And we also knew at the same time that there were tremendous challenges in negotiating directly with the app companies who have layers and layers of leadership that they would have to go through in order to come to a quick decision. And so with those challenges in mind, I shifted the process. Instead of a quantitative analysis, we decided to go forward with a qualitative, in-depth interview of each of the restaurant and app companies there. From there, I learned that the food app delivery ecosystem is quite delicate. App companies require a thriving restaurant industry in order to be successful, and restaurants need every resource they can get in order to drive customer sales up. And that also includes the app companies. What I heard directly from the restaurants is that while they would like more money back into their pockets in terms of a fee cap, many of them felt that there were more important issues such as reopening the economy for them to be able to drive up their own customer base through programs and initiatives like San Jose Alfresco and outdoor dining. And also many restaurants also wanted to be able to leverage the technology of these app companies and their impressive marketing ability resources so that they can draw their customer base out there. We also, let me back up a little bit. I also tried to prioritize restaurants that were small and immigrant owned because my working assumption was that these are the restaurants that need the most help and the restaurants that really would be impacted. I wanted to give a short list of the restaurants that we reached out to. Some of them included Mexico Lindo, Omelet House in Alum Rock, Paper Moon Cafe, Luna Mexican Kitchen, Good Karma Pizza Flora, Naan and Curry were some of the restaurants that we had qualitative discussions with, as well as participated in our restaurant roundtable and the industry convening on Monday this week. So given all of the feedback that we've been hearing from the restaurants, that we felt that the app companies were very responsive into hearing all these initiatives. Some of the recommendations that came out of this convening was for the app companies to go back to their leadership and to figure out how they can better activate immigrant businesses. Like, for example, the Lion Market Square, Grand Century Mall. I'm Vietnamese myself, so I really focus on those, but I'm sure there are other ethnic enclaves, especially within the Latino community, that need to be activated. And these app companies can be a great resource to let the greater San Jose community know that they're still open for business. Other things such as technology training and resources that the restaurants needed. Many immigrant businesses are just need more technology literacy and to be able to leverage these opportunities. And thirdly, to really market through the app company's impressive customer base through notifications on apps on their phones, and to let immigrant-owned businesses know that there are marketing opportunities available through these apps. And other things like, for example, creating a merchant advisory group so that these restaurants can continue to have regular dialogue and feedback with app companies to make sure that we can better support a thriving restaurant community. In summary, I would say that the recommendations that came out of the group were all things that the app companies were very sympathetic to, and that they specifically told myself directly that they didn't want this to be the end of the dialogue, the end of the discussion about how we can help restaurants. And they were looking forward to working with that. And SVO, we're going to take on this charge and mission personally to see how we can better help our restaurants in San Jose. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eddie. I would encourage you to do that. This is the one industry that I think, well, hair salons as well, I guess, but the one industry that really needs to get back on its feet. It's mostly small mom and pop, and I think I'd really appreciate a continued effort on ways to help them. And I'm looking forward to the alfresco being implemented. I was talking about it today in front of my community office hours. I'm hoping that we can get that going sooner rather than later as well. And thank you, Councilmember Dieppe, for you bringing this to our attention and so that we can work on this problem. Thank you.
If I could answer your question, Councilmember Camus, also to share in addition to what Eddie was saying. and I didn't, read a news article in the Atlantic and decide to bring this to San Jose. I talked to some people, that the places that I frequent, and just in casual conversation, they raised the issue. And so it kind of flagged the item for me. And on the whole, I think restaurants are okay paying about 20% or so. Of course, they want a low fee as possible, but I think the breaking point for them is around 20%. And some of the apps go up to 30%. And so there were concerns and complaints to me, and I kind of started to look into it. And that's what kind of led me down this path that I pursued. I think if you're a restaurant owner, you tend to be an entrepreneur, and you tend to like the free market, and you tend to like limited government. And so, in the conversation that we had with the apps on Monday, or was it Monday? The days are merging, but Monday, one comment that stuck with me was one restaurant owner said that this person did not agree that it's the role of the city to regulate, how the apps could charge their fees. Fair enough. It's a very free market mentality. I get that. But then in her second breath, she said, it would be wonderful if I could get 12%, 12.5% for the next 2 or 3 months. And I heard that, and I just kind of chuckled, because I didn't want 12%, but this is kind of what government has to do in order to guarantee the thing that she wanted. But she was kind of, I don't want government to grow. I don't want government interference. But at the same time, I want the thing that, you're trying to push for, but how do you get there without government? And so that's kind of the inherent, I guess, hurdle for us, or for me, in trying to push this, because a lot of the restaurant owners, if you ask them, do you want government to interfere? The answer, just objectively or broadly, is going to be no. But then they want the end result that government regulation would lead to. So that's the hurdle.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that the SVO will continue to do, is continue this dialogue. I think it's their purview to go after and help small businesses in any way they can. And if they could be a bridge to making their businesses, to get cooperation, I think it would be a really good idea if Eddie continued this dialogue. There's always that constant threat of regulation anyway, and I think that I think they could, the SVO could use that to their advantage, and to continue this, in order to continue the dialogue. And I hope, and again, at least they had a voice where I think that they didn't before. So I thank you for all the work that you're doing, Councilmember Diep.
Councilmember, could I say a few words? Is that okay?
Eddie, I'm sorry, is it in response to a particular question?
Yeah, just to respond to Councilmember, I left out some closing comments I wanted to make, if that's okay.
But
Yeah, please, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
There's a particular question Councilmember Camus wants to ask, and happy to have you respond to that. But we are done with public comment. Councilor Camus?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other things you're working on, Eddie, that you wanted to highlight quickly, because since it's been pulled, I think that the dialogue is not super necessary, but it would be.
I think just very quickly, the SVO, we support withdrawing the memo, because based on the conversation that we heard on Monday, there was a strong interest from both sectors to partner and to find a solution outside of government intervention. And you have our commitment that we will push for this dialogue and to fight for restaurants, as 10% of our members are restaurants as well. And just very briefly, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And Eddie, thanks for all your efforts. We really appreciate you convening everyone, and making the effort to convene. Okay, anything further, Councilman Camus? No. Okay, Councilman Arenas?
Thank you, Mayor. So last week, I unfortunately wasn't able to be with you for the rest of the conversation. I know I left off. We were giving some real clear direction in terms of how, and we recognize that our staff is really busy, and we hope that we could take this outside of our traditional paths. But there was a blackout in my neighborhood for almost the whole day, and so I tried to get back on, and I think Tony helped me through the phone. Anyways, I know that Eddie, I appreciate the effort. It sounds like it was a good conversation. I know that in those 2 minutes, obviously you don't have enough time to include everything. I'm wondering, who was there? It sounds like some of the restaurants. I like that you had some really diversity in there. One of the comments that I had made last week was that I wanted to have the workforce somehow represented there, and I think there was an overall agreement. I think Vice Mayor supported that because it was his motion. Was there anybody there at the meeting that represented any of the workers? And I know that just exclusive to what we're talking about. I know there were some comments earlier talking about gig workers and the lawsuit related to some slightly different issues, but we were just talking about how that 15% or 10% and the PPE breakdown would impact workers. So Eddie,
there was one or two drivers there, but there was not I think you suggested working partnerships last time, but no one from that.
Oh, okay. So were they invited or they just didn't attend?
I can't. I did not personally invite them, but they were Dashers. They were affiliated with DoorDash, so I don't know if it was through Eddie's invite. I mean, I did post online that we were having this meeting, so it could have been just through a random ad. It could have been, through the app saying, "Hey, like, come on and participate." So I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, my question was for Eddie, actually, council member, because I know that you weren't the one doing the invitations. I don't know if Eddie's still on the phone.
Hi, Councilmember Arenas. Thank you so much for your comment. Yes, we did take note of your request to incorporate into the motion of the Vice Mayor to include worker representatives to participate. And to that end, we did invite delivery app workers to participate. And we're actually very glad that we did, because some of the concerns that came up were to protect economic security for the delivery drivers, as well as some situations where restaurants felt that driver professionalism was not on standard to the expectations of the companies. So it was very useful to have the driver's perspective there as well, and that was a part of the dialogue.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear. I know that I think Postmates had also commented that they would send in some of their workers. Since this is off the table, it's nor here nor there. But I think I think in good faith, we were hoping that all of the folks who were supposed to be at the table would be at the table. And so I'm glad that it all worked out. It seems that whatever discussions happen from here on, it's between the delivery service folks and some of the restaurants, although it's whatever they decide will impact the whole city of San Jose and the workers in their delivery systems. And so I hope that if you continue to have these conversations, that you integrate folks from working partnerships and exclusive to this issue, because I know that there was some slightly different issue brought up earlier, but just exclusive to this issue and the cap, because I think it's important to have a myriad of folks in the room so that you can come up with something that is exclusive to San Jose. And lastly, I just want to thank you, Councilmember Diep. I think this was a really great proposal. I think it's very thoughtful in terms of how our business is recovering at this point, and trying to support those businesses to keep them alive. I want to see as many restaurants as possible stay open, and I try to eat out as much as I can. My children really like that part. Unfortunately, I go and pick up, or my husband goes and picks up our food. But I really appreciate your effort in bringing this forward. I thought it was rather very. Your leadership is noted in my book on this. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, then, there's no action needed on this. We'll move on to the next item, which I believe is open forum. All right, and Mr. Beekman.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, to find my beginning here. There is an IoT future that I hope San Jose City government is continually learning how to prepare more open and accountable public policies, as these are the better ways to define the future of equality, equity, and innovation for a local U.S. community and its democracy. Again, to state clearly, good minimal use practices can do just about as much as oversaturation of technology of local San Jose neighborhoods at this time. I hope the city government of San Jose and all of its talk of responsibility will want to practice how to facilitate a community meeting process this summer. This can help address many issues this summer, where we can learn to ask together to ask the federal government to put on the brakes of dumping tons of new technology into local communities at this time, and prepare together the questions and ideas of housing, schooling, and the next few years of COVID-19. I think a good community commission focus can help bring together how to address the future of both police issues of violence and to also address community issues of violence that was prevalent in the beginning of these protests. I hope you can begin to be open to how Equity Task Force and a Vision Zero Task Force can work this summer also along with the community meeting process overall. And please be considering the approval of $7 million in smart meters for outdated water meters for item 6.1 yesterday. Simply has to be a phased-in system over the next few years and not an all-at-once approach to respect the health of people in San Jose and with all the 4 and 5G you will be placing into local neighborhoods at this time. I feel these are good practices at the local level that can invite all of us to work better together. I guess that's about it for myself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.